Good afternoon, Unlockers. My name is Michelle Beckett, and I am one half of ADHD Unlocked, and I'm joined by the other half of ADHD Unlocked, and that's Steph Camilleri. So how are you this week, Steph?
Not bad. It's Friday. I just can't believe how quickly that we're literally nearly in December. Unbelievable.
I know, it's nearly 2022. So this week we've been looking at a topic which is quite confronting. I know a lot of our topics are quite confronting, and this one is a little bit philosophically difficult as well. But it is the subject of masking because of your ADHD or other neurodiversities and suppressing your true self because you feel you don't fit in, or you're going to get a negative reaction from other people, maybe at home or in the workplace or with friends, family. And that can have a real impact on your quality of life. And just not being your true self it's just really sad, isn't it, Steph?
Yeah, it really is, particularly because a lot of us don't even know we're doing it, particularly if you haven't been diagnosed with ADHD. So you don't know about the ADHD, so you certainly wouldn't know about the masking, and it becomes automatic.
Yes, and if we've done that since childhood as well, if perhaps people have told us off for our behaviours, or you're too dramatic, or you're too exuberant, or you're too outspoken, you kind of maybe naturally and even subconsciously suppress those behaviors because you've had such a negative reaction from early childhood that you're not even aware that you're doing it. And that's really, really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And in our members meetup, it came up a lot in terms of how our childhood has impacted our masking, that all the kind of negative messages, sometimes even being kind of publicly shamed at school for maybe blurting things out or being a little bit too excited. I remember once, actually, when I was a kid, we had this challenge to find this treasure chest on this island in Australia, Shark Island thing. And I just went off and found it without waiting for everyone else. And I got in big trouble. So, yeah, we do have that impulsivity. I mean, fair enough. But, we get that message that we need to rein it in.
Yeah.
Need to take a hold of ourselves, control ourselves.
And just on that, I mean, it still stings the teacher, because I was always had my hand up and always, such a kind of bookworm and knew the answers to everything, would correct the teacher. But I remember the teacher saying once, "Anybody know the answer to this? Everyone except Michelle," she used to say. And it's really hard not to be a sob story, but it's like we have suppressed this, haven't we?
We have. I mean, just now. I mean, we didn't talk about that in our recap with members just now, Michelle, but that probably just came to mind. And this is what happens. There is so many layers, that so many things we've kind of buried or tried not to, we've just kind of, because it's really triggering and it's upsetting. So that also kind of doesn't discourage the masking, doesn't discourage that story that we're telling ourselves, does it?
No, exactly. And this hits really hard, because I found that my rejection sensitivity is at its worst when I've let slip behaviors that I often suppress, like my over exuberance, as people have said in the past, or being a bit dramatic, opinionated, etc. And then you've been criticized for it as an adult. Then that really hurts, because partly it's your true self.
Yeah, for ADHDs in particular, we're a sensitive bunch. We're also very intense. Naturally, we're intense. We really are. We're either all in or all out, and it is really difficult to moderate ourselves. And actually, that came up in the members meetup: the difference between masking and self-regulation.
Yeah, because we can't just let rip and interrupt and go, well, look, I'm not masking, so I'm just going to interrupt you all the time, or I'm just going to have completely emotional dysregulation all over the place and upset everybody and go, well, look, I can't help it because that's my ADHD and I don't want to mask. That is very different, isn't it, Steph?
Yeah, completely. And this was really good. That was actually one of our members that really made that point, which is why ADHD Unlocked is just absolutely incredible community and resource for ADHDers, because like our members absolutely brilliant, and with all the different kind of backgrounds. So everyone together have just, yeah, the wealth of information. And she was talking about the difference between the masking and self-regulation. And obviously the masking is it's about what's at stake and the consequences. So, you know, if it's an unhealthy behavior that we're engaging in terms of the masking, and we're kind of sacrificing ourselves and our wants and our values, then that's, you know, it's not healthy, and that's not to be encouraged.
No, exactly. So there's a difference between behaviors that may be problematic for other people, such as being late or, you know, interrupting constantly, that we do need to try and work on, and actually suppressing our, you know, what we think about politically, what we find funny, what makes us angry, what makes us passionate, what makes us light up, what makes us excited. And these are the core of our true selves, aren't they?
Yeah, and given that interest is like, it's the fuel for ADHD brain, right? So the more we're masking and pretending to be interested in things that we're actually not authentically interested in, we're not going to have that fuel. We're not going to have that, you know, engagement, productivity. We're not going to be our best selves actually while we continue to do that.
No, and it's exhausting as well. So often that's a good sign that I may have been subconsciously masking if I'm really, really tired after an event, or where I've been, you know, with a lot of people, and I think I'm more exhausted than I should be. I reckon it's a good sign that I've been masking.
Yeah, you can actually feel when you're trying harder. And that, I guess that's kind of the, you know, there's the flow of the conversation, and just you're enjoying it, and it's just easy and effortless, versus, you know, you can feel yourself kind of thinking and just, you know, really kind of bringing up the energy as well. Like, I guess that can be a form of masking too. And it is really draining. ADHDers don't suffer falls easily. So one thing that was spoken about was how, you know, we don't suffer falls easily. And it can be, you know, a lot of ADHDers have very high standards. A lot of us are very quick. And so inefficiencies can be something that, particularly in the workplace, that ADHDers don't easily tolerate. Yeah, and can be the cause of some conflict in the workplace.
And yeah, that sense of justice as well is something to be nurtured, and is one of our strengths. But, you know, how you deliver it, and, you know, so that you're not being impulsive and thinking strategic, that's not masking. That's just being strategic. But if you're thinking I'm flawed and I'm suppressing this behavior, and this is just me being my true self, but you feeling that you can't do it because you're flawed, then that becomes really, really dangerous for your mental health.
Yeah, and it's we covered this in people pleasing actually, because it's masking. We generally do it because of people pleasing, to avoid that RSD. And we know how that ends up. We often end up, you know, if we're saying yes when we don't want to do the thing, or we're too busy and we're just trying to please, then, but we inevitably end up burnt out, or resenting the person, or, as you said, Mish, ending up in relationships that just are not healthy for us.
No, and this is the ultimate masking. And often, if we've been doing that since childhood, we feel we have to become a type of different person to receive love. And we often are attracted to ironically, people that are less likely to give that love to us. We feel that we have to win them over. So that is a form of masking that a lot of neurodiverse people subconsciously are compelled to do, because of their childhood and rejection that we've had as childhood. So, but you, in order to attract the right partner, you've got to be your true self, somebody that's going to accept you for who you are.
Yeah, that's also aligned, you know, with your values too. And so at ADHD Unlocked, we're very much about our members learning more about themselves. We really believe that the more we really understand ourselves, what we like, our values, our strengths, then we can get ourselves in positions where we can use those strengths and with other people that appreciate our strengths and values, and we can be ourselves.
Exactly. And a bit of masking, you know, not calling it masking, but just adopting your style for different groups of people is absolutely fine. But just knowing the situations where you're likely to mask and really suppress yourself, and it can go a massively long way into just letting you drop it, and examining why you do it, going back into childhood, but just understanding that we might have done this for 50 years. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Yeah. But if you work on your self-esteem, you work on your people pleasing, you work on your boundaries and all the stuff that we cover at ADHD Unlocked, week in, week out, this stuff becomes easier and easier, doesn't it, Steph?
It really does. And one thing we were talking about in particular was how often because we trigger, we get overwhelmed and we trigger quite easily, and we get a lot of, frustration, pent up frustration. The meltdowns, right, happen as a result. But it's about being able to find enough opportunities to let that out, so honestly kind of getting that out, and that's going to help when you're in interactions with other people. You won't have to mask as much because you're going to have more capacity. You're going to have more capacity.
Exactly. And I found that masking is not as much of a problem because I've kind of accepted a lot of my ADHD traits and embraced them. So then I have more capacity, and it all kind of works like, parts of an engine. It's really, really, really interesting. But other people understanding your ADHD is really important as well. And that's what we're looking at next week. We're looking at how you communicate your ADHD to others, people you live with, family, friends, in the workplace, how you explain it, because there's so much stigma and ignorance. So please do join us. Put the link on this particular post so that you can sign up for our newsletter and hear more about this. But we're looking at how to explain your ADHD next week, which is really important, isn't it, Steph? And quite difficult.
It's really difficult because of our communication difficulties, particularly if we're feeling RSD, which we will be if we're trying to explain our ADHD to other people.
Yes. So, but we're going to give you some strategies and techniques and a kind of crib sheet, if you like, of how to do this. So do join us, but just have a think about, if you mask, you probably do situations that you do, and who are you? Who's the real you? What do you find funny? What makes you angry? What makes you passionate? What do you believe in? And that will really help you along the way, won't it, Steph? So
last words, don't dim your light to fit in. There we go.
Absolutely love it. Thank you, Steph, and thank you, Unlockers, and we will see you next week. So take care and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.